This is my long-suffering Ridley cross bike. It's what I ride to work on. Now, just recently I've noticed in the front wheel of this bike, it's got a bit of weeble wobble in the front wheel, so I suspect I either need to adjust or do something with the hub bearings. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to take those apart and see what's going on. Now this bike uses cantilever brakes, so to get the wheel out I'm going to have to disconnect the brake up here, and then I'll come down to the front wheel quick release. That's just as usual. Pull the lever, a couple of turns, put it straight out, and then out the wheels out I can progress with the disassembly of the hub. So rip the quick release skewer out, keep all the bits together, and from there takes a 5mm Allen key on this side and one on the other side just to sort of take this end cap off. So rip one out of this set, in there. Cool, let's pop that end cap off. Tight. There you go. Hasn't been apart for a very long time. Keep that there, so there's a washer and a little nut, so we'll hang on to both of those, and then from there 2.5mm Allen key in there, and then that's our that's also our bearing adjuster, bearing preload adjuster. This is on to take up any float, so I could just adjust that, but I kind of want a bit more of a look and see what's going on that's caused the float to happen all of a sudden. Because these hubs, I don't think I've touched them for probably 5 years, and that bike sees daily use. So God knows how many Ks it's done. And I don't know really what to expect. We'll soon find out. They still felt pretty smooth, but then who knows? So just pop that. Might need to get like a little flathead or something. Right, we're back with a specialist Fulcrum wheels pry tool, also known as a random flathead screwdriver. And it's kind of like a little bit of a split just in this sort of spacer. So if you pry next to that, it just comes out fairly easily. Don't put too much force, don't have to damage anything. Win-win. So that looks not too bad. And then from there we should get the rest of our axle out, I think. Oh, actually, I've skipped a step. These ones have a little plastic ring on the outside of these spokes, so we'll just pry that off as well. And that should let the axle become free. It's not looking very clean in there, so I'm not too excited now, but we'll see what comes out. So this is one of our cones, and that's the other, and get that cleaned up and see how we're looking. In terms of the bearings themselves, pretty dirty, but not too bad. Not too bad at all. Let's get these grease shields off as well, because we'll take the bearings out and just clean them out while I've got it apart. There we go. And we'll clean up those cups as well and see how they're looking. So we've got the cups in there, and we've got the bearings, like those guys, and then we've got the cones, and that's our 3 bearing surfaces. So basically I've got these parts all laid out now in order of the way they have to go back together, so I don't mix up sides and keep everything matched. Sometimes I wear as a matched pair, so it's good to keep the same bearing with the same cup on the same side of the wheel. Just best practice, especially if you're planning on reusing used components and not just replacing everything like what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do now is just clean them one by one and get them ready for reinstallation. And if there's something really bad, then I'll have to source a replacement. Now, having a very close look at the bearing surfaces, there's no, I don't know if you can make that out very well, there's no obvious pitting where the little silver line is on the hub where the bearings were running, so that's a good cone right there. And we'll have a look at this one as well. Try to get that up into the light. And that one looks like it's in fantastic condition as well, so they're totally usable. This is an example of a bad grease shield, so it's sort of cracking through the side, the inside edge there. So, if this was like a, if you were like a bike mechanic and this was like a customer's bike, you wouldn't reuse that because this is my bike. I don't mind maintaining it more often if I have to, so that's going to go back in, even though it's, probably not ideal. Now I've just got to do the same for the wheel, and we'll check the surfaces there as well. Now, having a close look inside these wheels, the cup surface is absolutely fantastic as well, so totally usable, okay condition. I probably could have got away with just tightening up the tension on these wheels, but seeing as I'm in here, I'm going to clean it all out and re-grease them, but they are in fantastic condition, so no replacement of parts required, except for those grease shields if I really wanted to. Now, because I don't have megabucks for the correct Kluber lubricants, isoflex, topaz, and B52 grease, I'm just going to use some waterproof bearing bicycle grease. That was what was in there previously. It lasted 5 years, no worries. It's not going to spin as nicely as the proper stuff, but it'll get the job done. So I'm going to use that. I'm just going to pre-grease all the surfaces and then just assemble. I'm not going to pack heaps of grease in there. They don't need lots. Just enough is fine with these guys. So you can see it just has a surface on there. It's not really loaded up. Pack a little bit more into the bearings themselves. So these Racing 3 hubs use just all the steel surfaces, no ceramics at all. So just steel balls, steel surfaces. Typically find the ceramic surfaces wear out an awful lot faster than the steel ones, especially with the level of maintenance that I like to conduct on my bikes, which is the absolute minimum. These are the perfect hubs for me. Like, the ceramic ones are supposed to roll better, and there's probably some truth to that. However, if they're worn out and crunchy, they're not rolling well, and I wouldn't be inclined to service the ceramics ones as much as they would desire. So for me, these are probably the most efficient and rapid option of hubs I could ever have in a bicycle that I sort of just pedal to work. It's a pretty simple purpose, all conditions. Whereas the full ceramic ones, they don't even use grease, they just use like a light smattering of oil or nothing, just very, very light, which doesn't offer a lot of protection when you get water and contaminants in there. So they do tend to wear out much more rapidly than the steel ones with a bit more gap, and they just seem a lot less sensitive to those sort of conditions. So get all the surfaces back together. This one goes on this side. Maybe it doesn't. Anyway. And then trap for young players. These bearings are kind of shaped like a bit of a cone on this side. So that's the side that goes into the hub, and then this side here is the side that goes onto the cone, just like that. Because if you get that around the wrong way, it just binds up and nothing's going to spin nicely for you. You can do the same on the wheel now, and then we'll be ready to go. Get a fine spattering of grease in the cups of this wheel. We'll be ready to install the axle. So again, just a tiny amount. You don't need to pack them full or anything like that. There's probably some fuel ratio specification somewhere, but again, I'm not using the correct grease, so it's not going to be right anyway. But hopefully it runs nicely. So that's the most important thing. Get this grease shield in. Actually, I'll get just chuck it in like this. They're not real sensitive, so. Cool. And that'll just push through like that. And do the same on the other side. Drop our bearing in. Drop our grease shield in. I usually do white side out, I think that's the correct way, and having sort of the silver section on the white inside. There's a steel reinforced, I think the Teflon, steel reinforced poly tetrafluoro, whatever, PTFE. Install cone, install little spacer ring thingo. Next step is our preload adjuster. Get a few turns on that guy. Get it out of the way. All feels right. Next step, we'll get our lock nut and a little washer. Get that one roughed in. Get a little cap on the outside. Cool. It's just a matter of install a 5mm on this side. And we'll get some preload adjustment on it. So the way I've got the wheel positioned is that axle's not going to spin, and I can just tighten this 2.5mm up just nicely. So the way I usually set it is, and I don't think there's a torque spec, it's kind of just what's right's right. It's kind of too tight usually, And some people, like some really experienced Campy techs and Fulcrum techs I've spoken to, they give it a tap with a hammer on each side. I prefer to let the wheel spin and then reset the ring after the grease has been dispersed. Otherwise you risk damaging the surfaces, in my opinion. But, lots of people do the tapping method and they get a pretty good result so probably both are valid, and the wheel's probably going to cop worse than a little hammer tap when it's out on the road. It's going to really cop it. So I think there's probably some merit to either. I'll snip that up. And then we'll torque this guy up. Cool, I can hold it with this Allen key or I'll give it a spin. Righto. That is feeling just buttery smooth, and so when you're testing them after doing something like this, you give it a spin, you feel for any roughness or any play, and I can't feel any play and I can't feel any roughness, so to me that feels pretty good. What I'll probably do now is I'll just ride it to work and working back and double check the tension. If it's still tight, we're done. So that's that. I'm also a really firm believer in checking your work. So just to double check that you've done a good job, just make sure the wheel doesn't stop spinning after a really short period of time. Bonus clip. Hello, Jakey. Jakey. Who's that Jakey?